Hello and welcome to another episode of Sailing Indiana. Today I'm going to be talking you through Starlink and how it works for boats and what the recent changes have been from Starlink, which everyone's not too sure about.
Welcome to our sailing channel, Sailing Indiana. I'm Lauren and this is Chris. And this is our beautiful home, Indiana. We don't know much about sailing, but for the last 2 years we've jumped feet first into a life on the water. So here's to adventure, here's to sailing around the world, to a life less ordinary, to whatever tomorrow brings. Welcome aboard.
So I'm going to talk you through Starlink and how it works for the sailing community and people living aboard and using it whilst at anchor, whilst at mooring and whilst underway. So there's been some recent changes through from Starlink and no one's really sure what you can and can't do anymore. So we're going to give you our interpretation of that and what we think would be best if it's something that you're thinking of doing, and give you an honest review. So we're going to let you know how we use it, how it's been working for us, and then what we think the future holds for Starlink, and really what the do's and don'ts are, what the new changes are, the packages that you can get, how much you need to pay, and what that will allow you to do. For us, on Wednesday, we all got an email from Starlink that said new mobility plan. So we've got the Starlink Roam version, and now we're being told that there's something else that we can choose. There's a new version of what we've got. So the email goes, Starlink is offering a new Maritime/mobility plan for £247 a month that provides 50 gigabytes of priority data, which enables our fastest network speeds for consumers and can be used for the ocean and land. That's the key point. After using all your priority data, the plan includes unlimited data on inland coverage, e.g. lakes and rivers, anywhere Starlink has service around the world. Additional priority data with access across for the ocean will be available to purchase through the account at a later date. So I guess that means you can top up to upgrade to the new plan, sign into your account, blah, blah, blah. So that now kind of wraps up the question about, can you use Starlink in the ocean? And also gives a little more insight into the in-motion part of it. So since Starlink came out, there's always been a question of, well, is it supposed to be used at sea? The terms and conditions say that it's not supposed to be used in motion, and that you can't use it out of the geofence location of land, which I think it's not been geofenced, maybe that's the wrong word, but the potential is they could have geofenced it where you then can't leave land and you can't use it in the ocean. But if you've been on the forums, and there's, I think, Starlink on Boats forum on Facebook, which is one of the main ones, you'll see people have been having great success with even sailing across the Atlantic whilst using Starlink, and are sort of saying, well, there's no such thing as not being able to use Starlink in motion or offshore. It's only recently that that's been kind of put into question, whereas there's been a lot of people getting shut down whilst in motion and having emails to say, well, now you've breached the terms and conditions, you can't use Starlink in motion, you have to upgrade to a higher performance dish, and you have to upgrade to our new in-motion or maritime package. Let's go into what the packages are, what they did cover, and now what they are offering, and we'll do that inside. Just a quick note to say as well that, as you might have seen from outside, we are no longer in the marina in Falmouth, so things have progressed. We thought we would just film this though, as we just got the update from Starlink, so we thought it'd be topical to get this information out to you as soon as we could. So this will jump back in time, back to where we left you last week. But yeah, this is real time. So just to give you the information on what we are using right now and the package we've got. So we're using Starlink Roam, and we got that probably about, I don't know, 8 months ago, something like that. We paid £500 for the setup for the dish, and we are paying £95 a month for the subscription. Because we're on the Roam service, which used to be Starlink RV, we can pause that subscription and only use it when we need to. So that's been great for us over the winter, where we've had great signal on our mobile phones and on our SIM cards, and so we've not needed to use the Starlink for those benefits that Starlink can bring. So we've just shut it down, and we've just fired it back up the last month because we've been leaving the marina and getting out and about into the Cornish countryside where there's very little signal. So we've got the original version of the dish, and so it's not the high performance version. There are a couple of versions you can get, which are the original dish. You can get a high performance version now, and you can get a marine version as well, all at various prices. So let's run through where we stand at the moment then with Starlink and the updates that have come through. So if you can see, this is the website then. If you log on in the UK for Starlink, this is what you get. Residential, Starlink is now offering a limited time offer, £300 then for the hardware. As I said, we paid £500, it was £460, and now it's £300. You can get that now on a monthly subscription, or sorry, monthly finance, where you've got pay £15 a month for that. So it does make it more accessible for people who haven't got £300 lying around. This will give you their high speed, low latency broadband internet. They're offering £75 a month at the moment for the subscription. And then there's the Roam version, and this is obviously then, well, as I said, what we're using now. This is the on and as needed basis. Same price for the hardware, which by the looks of this picture is the original Starlink that we've got, and this is £95 per month, and that's exactly what we're paying now. You've then got Maritime. So the email that came through on Wednesday was showing this all new price point for their Starlink Maritime. Coverage for boats of all sizes, up to 220 Mbps download while at sea, starting at £247 a month with a one-time hardware cost of £2,410. So that price point seems ridiculously high, but if you think that just before last week, the only maritime or at sea version that you could get and legitimately use, even though, as I said, people had been using the original one fine, was a sort of version for super yachts or ferries, which was £10,000 for the dish and a £5,000 a month subscription. So this really was out of reach for anyone in the realms of sort of your sailing boat owners, other than people who are in your big yachts and things like that. So that was the only way you could legitimately use your Starlink at sea. So as of this week, we've now got this option. The reason for the jump in the hardware cost is because you have to be using their high performance flat dish, and it stipulates that you have to have that fixed in your vessel and be using that version. So there is sorry, you might be able to hear just all sorts of noises. We're currently on a floating pontoon up a river, and every time a boat goes past, we go crazy, and you can hear the fenders and lines screeching at the side of the boat, so apologies for the interference. It's a little bit annoying for us because we've got then the original version of the Starlink, which is only £500, and now this new Maritime versions come out, which would be great for us for crossing oceans if when that happens. But now, instead, obviously there's a big jump for us monthly for the payment, but if you then look at an Iridium Go and how much the hardware is for that, which is probably over £1,000 at the moment, and you also look at the subscription for that, it actually isn't that big a deal to then go, well, let's jump up to the Maritime version for the month that we're going to be crossing the Atlantic, and it will be as comparable to an Iridium Go, and the speeds are going to be 10 times faster than that, and all the benefits that come with having Starlink. That would be great, but now that we've got to have this new hardware, this high speed version, it's not great, because we've now got something then that is not obsolete, but effectively not fit for purpose. Obviously as well, the £2,500 price tag isn't something that we're really prepared to pay, as it stands, we're not in that ballpark of being able to throw that kind of money at things. But is it outrageous? Is it ridiculous for internet anywhere, for being in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean and having super fast high-speed broadband? Yeah, it's probably not actually that expensive when you think about it like that. So it's affordable if you are going to be spending your time out in the ocean and need that sort of connection. So are we going to be spending our time out in the ocean and needing that sort of connection? And that is the question. Well, really, probably about 5% of our whole sailing plans are going to be spent in the middle of oceans. So we are going to be sailing across oceans to get to places, and we're going to be spending a lot of time in these places when we get there. So it's going to be coastal cruising, and it's going to be popping in and out of marinas, but mainly spending time at anchorages and staying off of the oceans as much as we can, because there's not really much out there for us to do. We would only need to buy into these maritime packages ad hocly, and Starlink hasn't quite made it clear yet if that's possible. So can you go from your Roam or RV Roam package, go, well, I need a month in the ocean, so now I want to upgrade to that, and then when you get to where you're going, can you then come back down to the RV version? So that isn't clear at the moment. That would be the ideal situation, you know, leaving aside the fact that we don't have the high performance dish. That would be the ideal situation. So we need to find out if that's possible. They have said you can bolt on additional data effectively when you run out of your 50 gigabytes that they've given you on the high speed, high performance kit. So there are bolt-ons and different things you can get down the line, and we'll just have to wait and see if that is something that happens. So then the question is, we're going to be sitting, as we said, at anchor or in marinas and cruising coastally. So can we use Starlink in those situations? Well, we recently recorded a bit of footage coming out of Falmouth, and this is it. And for those of you asking whether Starlink works in motion, currently it does for us. So I know we're not offshore, but we are working our way down the River Fowle. And everything was working fine. So we were underway and using Starlink, and no issues at all, super fast, high-speed broadband. As of Wednesday and this new update and this new package, it's possible that they will start stopping the in-motion use of equipment unless you are on the higher paying packages and unless you are playing by the rules. We're not sure yet what's going to happen. We've been at this floating pontoon for the week. We're in the middle of a river technically, and it's absolutely fine. So since that email's come out, since the new packages, we're still on the Roam version, and we're sitting here and I'm uploading videos and speaking to you guys using the Starlink package. So yes, it's fine. Have we tried it in motion yet? No, we haven't, and it is possible that it will be shut off. And I've seen evidence from people in the US who have got emails that have said you're violating the terms and conditions, you're not allowed to move on the package you're on or with the equipment that you've got. So we'll see what happens and we'll keep you updated. So an update on the coverage and why it is that you can use Starlink while still at sea and not at land according to the Starlink rules. So this is the Starlink map on the website, and recently there was a question on one of the forums, and somebody got a response from Starlink to let them know what is and isn't covered within the sort of Roam packages. And the question was that they were at anchor and wanted to know if they were breaking the rules effectively. So they said no, that the map uses hexagons, and that's how they plot their coverage. So then we're looking at the southwest of the UK, and as you can see the outline of the actual land here within the blue shaded area, and you can see the hexagons come right out in certain places, and others they just skim past, like that sea lizard point there, and again then even at Land's End it's coming right out into the sea. So in some places it's a good few miles off the coast, and some places it's touching. So it gives you an indication that if you're anywhere in that area, as long as you're not breaking the in motion rules, then you'll be fine. Then it does still pose a question, what is in motion, and is the old thought process of not over 10 miles an hour or sort of 7, 8 knots. Is that the case, or will you be in motion with the new upgrade? That remains to be seen, but as for now, that's your sort of coverage question answered. If you're anywhere in these sections, then you need to have the Maritime plan. One more thing is something that's not shown on the website when you click onto it, and something that has only appeared since I logged on to my account after seeing the email come through on Wednesday, is Global Roam. Flicking through the options for subscriptions, there's now a third option, which is Global Roam. With the RV version, or the basic Roam version, it's now showing that that's £85 a month, and that you can cruise anywhere within your continent and use it inland and not at sea, or not in the ocean is how they describe it. If you want to access complete global roaming on land, again not in the ocean, you can go for this Global Roam service, which bumps us up to £200 a month on the subscription, but actually allows us to change continents, allows us to move around, not in motion, but it gives us the option to then go across the Atlantic and sail around the Bahamas and so on. So that is possibly something that we will do when we do cross over, depending on whether we've gone for the Maritime option or not by then, whether we've upgraded to this high performance dish by then. It doesn't say anything about what dish you have to have for that service, and we're hoping that that might be a workaround for now. Yeah, that's another little update that we've just noticed. For us, we're going to be using the Starlink at anchor and in marinas and things like that. So can you use the Starlink at anchor? Yes, you can. So you're not in motion if you're swinging round an anchor. So that is what's been proven time and time again, and nothing has changed since the change on Wednesday that's come out. As I said, we're in a river at the moment, and there's nothing that has stopped us working, and we don't think that that will be the case. Our opinion is that the new Maritime option is just trying to put a price on the ability to use your Starlink at sea being underway, offshore, and potentially up to a certain distance offshore. They've mentioned that you can use on rivers and in lakes, and that I think will come under the guise of being on land as such. So I think everything will be fine to use your Starlink coastally, and everything should be fine to use it in marinas and on an anchor and moving around your anchorage, swinging around the anchor with the tide as you would do, no issue at all. Yeah, as I said, for the in-motion part of that, maybe we'll test it when we go sailing next and see whether or not you can still move at a slow speed without triggering the in-motion sort of clause. So that is, I think there's been a lot on the forums about people going under 7 knots, and you could get away with not being in motion at that speed. So that is something we will have to update you on as we go. Sorry about the noise again.
It's driving us mad.
Yeah.
Like, we were in a lovely anchorage up the river, and now we've come here, and it's like so beautiful, but it's just so nice.
Yeah, we're close to town, but we're paying the price for it.
Yeah.
But where we are, we won't tell you. You'll find that out in future episodes. We are planning to cross the Biscay very soon, and there's been a few setbacks to that, as there usually are with Indiana, that we're still trying to sort out before we go. So stay tuned for the next, probably in a couple of episodes time, you'll see us up to this point now, which is real time. But we thought we'd give you this little glimpse of, yes, we're out, we're sailing, and no, we're not in Spain yet. Oh, I've got to push the camera down a bit because Lauren can't stand up that high. I'll just squat
I'll try
here.
to go on the chopper. Oh God, don't do that.
And right, so the final piece, do you buy Starlink for your boat or not? If you're in the UK and you're planning on sailing around the coast in the UK, stopping at anchor, putting the Starlink on, doing a bit of work or whatever it is you do, then yes, definitely nothing has changed that will stop you from doing that. And it is super fast and will, I think, solve a lot of your problems if you are trying to explore remote places that don't have much signal. If you are planning on cruising around the Med, yes, again, the same things apply. I think you should buy it, and you should get the Roam version and just pay your 95 or 85 pounds a month, and you'll be absolutely fine because you're on the continent of Europe. If you're planning on crossing the Atlantic and you want solution, instead of an Iridium Go, to have super fast broadband for safety reasons, for weather reporting, weather routing, then no, probably not. You'll either have to have the high performance dish and pay £2,500 for it. If that's in your price range, then definitely yes. And you'll have to pay 250 or 270, £247 a month for the privilege of doing it. So yeah, it's how deep your pockets are really on that one. Is it affordable for the average Joe, including us? No. So we'll think about the idea of a sat phone and having somebody then on shore giving us weather routing and things like that. So that's going to be the option for us. So I think that's the update.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Bye bye.
See ya.